Hey guys. Hey everybody.
Yay!
Yay, we're
We
here.
made it.
Sorry we're a little bit
Oh my
late.
God, how about that
Oh my
technology?
gosh. Welcome to the Green Room YXE on May 26th, 2021.
Like I thought you could schedule updates.
Coming to you live from
Okay.
Saskatoon. I know we have to figure out how to do that, but we're coming to you live from Saskatoon, and I'm Leslie, and this is Johnny.
Hi.
And yeah, our camera's a little glitchy too, but I'm sure it'll all settle down.
Yeah.
So we are a live show. However, you can check No YXE YouTube channel for our previous shows. And if you're checking us out as a on the recording, then hello to everybody on the recording. So I hope everybody had a great week. We're just gonna kind of, because we're late, we're gonna kind of just get into things. We had, sorry, yeah, it was a little bit of trouble with our
Yeah.
computer, and it was doing a crazy update. And
And now everything's all the bits are falling into place.
yes, we hope so.
I think
But
that's how it works.
yeah, you wanted to say that we saw something that was
Oh,
really cool.
right. So this is technology, and when it goes south, it's like you're getting, like, right?
Yeah,
But then what did we see last night? We watched this
I
video
can't remember what it was called.
on
I know that I
some new
wrote it
kind
down.
of chat where it's they take the picture of the person. It's like having a glass between you, and that's it.
Yeah,
And so it's like the same technology that's in 3D, for movies and stuff like that. When they make, they map out your 3D movement and stuff like that, but they can process it in real time.
yeah. It's called
So
Project Starlight Line. Project Starline.
Project
And it looks
Starlight.
like rather than it being like a kind of a screen like a Zoom, it's going to blow Zoom out of the water. It's, yeah, like Johnny said, it's kind of like you're looking at someone through a glass. So it feels like you're right there with them because it's 3D and everything. So that's pretty amazing. So, goodness gracious, we could say just a couple of birthdays on this day, right?
Yeah.
Birthday on this day is Stevie Nicks was born in 1948 in Phoenix, Arizona. She dropped out of college to perform with her boyfriend, Lindsey Buckingham, with whom
What a
she joined
mistake.
Fleetwood Mac in 1974. 1964, Lenny Kravitz was born in Manhattan, New York, to the Jeffersons actress Roxy Roker and TV executive Cy Kravitz. And in 1975, Lauryn Hill was born in New
And I think
Jersey.
I think I saw somewhere too that it was Mick Ronson's birthday today as well.
Oh, get out, really?
Yeah.
Oh, well, why wasn't that in the
Yeah.
history
But that
books?
the story of I actually got to say hi to Mick Ronson,
That's right.
and it's kind of embarrassing, but
It's a good
I'll
story,
tell
though.
it. We were just down in Woodstock to record the first Pursuit of Happiness album, and we were at a bar, which is unusual. And we're sitting there drinking, and there's a guy in a Q107 T-shirt, and which is a Toronto rock radio station. And he'd get up every once in a while, and walk by us, and give us the old nod at the bar. And we were like, "Yeah, I wonder who that guy is. Yeah, he looks
He looks
familiar.
kind
He
of
looks familiar,
cool,
right?
like a
Looks
cool
familiar."
rocker.
So he comes walking by one time, and I get off my bar stool and I say, "Hey, you from Toronto?" He's like, with a British accent. He goes, "No, but I've spent a lot of time there." He goes, "I know it really well." And I go, "Oh," and I'm kind of like, "I have a feeling I should know who you are." And he's like, "Mick Ronson." I'm like,
Puts out his
"Oh,
hand to shake your hand.
wow."
Hello, I'm Mick Ronson.
So,
Yeah.
doink,
Yeah.
yeah. But it's like when McCartney takes a subway; people don't expect to see him,
No, that's
so
right.
he's
Him
just
and
sitting on the
yeah,
subway. Yeah.
that's right. That's right. It's true. Okay, so we are
That's
really
why nobody, says anything to me because they don't expect me to be anywhere. So,
right.
yeah.
Right. Of
Anyways,
course,
let's get
that's
going.
why. So we are really excited. We've got a very special guest for everybody tonight. Our guest tonight started his musical journey in the 1970s with a band called Simply Saucer from Hamilton, Ontario. And Simply Saucer went on to record a groundbreaking 6-song album with the infamous Bob and Daniel Lanois. And years later, released those 6 songs called Cyborgs Revisited, which received and continues to receive critical praises. In December 2005, the UK's Uncut magazine named Cyborgs Revisited one of the top 20 re releases that year, calling this gentleman that we have coming on a prophetic punk visionary. Over the years, Simply Saucer has gained a worldwide cult following, and he has plenty more in the works, and we're going to find out all about it. We're really excited to have him on the show. Please welcome to the Green Room YXE musician, songwriter, and visionary, Edar Breau.
Hey,
Woo!
hey, hey.
There he is, all the way from Hamilton.
Hey,
Look at him.
good to see you both.
Oh, it's
Actually,
good to see
you're
you.
outside of Hamilton, right?
In Dundas, which is, just
Oh, okay. Very cool. Very
Yeah.
cool. Oh, we're so
Lovely
excited to
place.
have you. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
We've been listening to your.
Wasn't Laura from Dundas?
Oh, maybe Laura Sargent?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Hi.
I am sorry. I do not remember.
Maybe. Anyways, we have a lot of friends in the Hamilton area, and
We love
it's got a
Hamilton.
great music scene.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it certainly does. Yeah.
Yeah, it's sort of it just seems like so different than we were living in Toronto for a long time. But Hamilton seems to have a really, really tight-knit musical community that
Yeah, very much so. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's got its own vibe. It's got its own language. You know, it's just it's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to before we get into the new record, by the way, which is a treat to listen to. It's I don't know what the review in Shindig call it. I can't remember.
Delightful.
4-star review from Shindig magazine out of the UK.
That's awesome.
Let's get a little bit up to speed with anyone watching that is normally just watches the show and checks out the guests we have on. Talk about Simply Saucer, because I think that I don't know what's going on in between your music, but the story of just your music is a Hollywood movie in and of itself.
Yes, it was
just the
very
way
convoluted.
all happened for you. Yeah. So you formed the band, and we first heard of you when we had a Hamilton drummer in our band who now has a band called the Foreign Films named Bill Majoris.
Okay. I know Bill.
He used to talk about Simply Saucer, and we couldn't understand what he was saying half the time anyway. So every once in a while, it would just be like blah, 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 Simply Saucer.
Yeah, that's how
blah, blah.
Bill talks. Yeah.
Just making fun of Bill. But he's an awesome guy. We love him, and we love all our Hamilton connections. So it's 1973. You formed the band. You're like a young guy, 21 years old or something, right?
That's right. With record collecting fanatics. So we were record collectors in a big time way. I think we were built as a cult band, and our influences were cult artists, like the Velvet Underground and the Stooges, the Pink Fairies, the British band, Captain Beefheart, a lot of the German bands like Can and Faust and Neu. So David Byers was one of the gentlemen that I formed the bands with, was of a Dutch background, and he was getting the Dutch underground records from Holland. It's, people who themselves became cult artists like Wally Tax and the Outsiders, Group 1850. And we had friends that were record collectors in a big way, like that had international connections. One of them, in particular, Mons Crummins, who had raided the third floor of Sam's and found all the old 13th Floor Elevator albums, the Seeds. So he was feeding us all this kind of B bands, I guess, in those days. Those kind of garage bands were considered B bands, bands like Question Mark and the Mysterians. But we kind of elevated them in our minds as bands that we wanted to emulate. And a lot of them have gone, that sound is more of a mainstream sound now, but it wasn't back then. So, and I think that contributed to our discovery, that by the time we were discovered in, later in the 80s and 1989, a lot of those artists had become more mainstream. And because we had so many influences that themselves had big cult followings, there was a big interest in us, and that a Canadian band had been playing this music in 1973, 74. I think it surprised a lot of the music critics, because we basically came out of nowhere. We were unsuccessful, broke up in 1979, and it looked like all had been lost. Even the recording session that later turned into Cyborgs Revisited, the 6-song demo was in our ex-manager's, the bottom of a closet in Montreal. He was in Arabia. He worked for Northern Telecom, and we were maybe not totally forgotten, but because we did have our fans and that in the city, but it was just a big surprise.
Yeah, that's
To say the least. Yeah.
Yeah. So you guys break. So when did you actually do the recording? Was it like in 74?
That was in 1974 at, and this would be the Lanois brothers' first studio, Master Sound Studio, which was in their mother's basement.
Yeah.
And yeah, in Ancaster, Ontario. Yeah. So our manager set the thing up, and it was more of a demo. We were trying to attract big label interest, but unfortunately, the big labels were not interested in our heavy metal sound or our heavy rock sound, which is, one of them put it that way. And so we got the rejection notices, and the reception at some of our shows, it wasn't very friendly. You know, we got thrown off the stage in Oakville at a club called the Galaxy 707. So it was, yeah, it was
got thrown off. You got thrown off stage for? Did you do anything, or just for playing your music? Like, that's crazy.
You know, our keyboard player came out dressed in a scuba diving outfit. I don't know. I think the club manager didn't take to that or something. I don't know. It was, and you know,
no sense of adventure for that guy. Yeah.
No, and our manager would book us like literally anywhere, like high school proms. You know, he was a great salesman. He'd say, these guys are perfect for your high school prom. And then it'd be like, after us, the first set, like the principal of the school would be like crying almost, like in tears or something, saying, can you guys play a different, you know. But, you know, there was like a conga line by the end of the show, like this sort of snaking conga line of the students. So it ended up well, you know.
Yeah.
But we were subversive, like when we began anyways. It was music that was totally improvised. So, you know, we had been listening to a lot of jazz and electronic music and that. So we started out that way. And eventually we started putting that improvised section within song structures, because I found I could write songs. I was a songwriter, and the two people I formed the band with originally, they left, and I thought it was over, and the other guys in the band said, no, we can do it together. So, and that was the band, the 4-piece that ended up recording Cyborgs Revisited.
Right.
Was there any other bands that were doing music that you were doing, the kind of music that you were doing? Was there any, you know what I mean, other bands in Canada that you thought like, oh no, they're kind of doing kind of the same thing? 'Cause it's,
I wouldn't say not with those influences. I mean, there were progressive rock bands that were experimental, but with those particular, like the Velvet Underground, I mean, they went on to become maybe one of the top 5, you know, American bands in all of American rock history. So I think it was that our particular influences, like the Stooges, like Teenage Head were about a year after, and they were a great band, great rock band, but maybe not as experimental as we were.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Well, I like what
In that sense.
I like what you say about the songs, just sort of having that break in the middle where it's just to me, it's organized chaos, and the sounds every time I listen to that record, it's like, we're so lucky that it was found and it was released, and that's like 10 years after the band broke up.
Yeah.
Which is the story of it sitting in your manager's closet. Is
Yeah, 15 years actually afterwards.
15 years after it was recorded. Yeah.
But that was sort of the feeling that you go for it.
Yeah.
When you solo, you go for it.
And that
it was like an all-out kind of thing.
And the band just follows you. They're just like, okay, you're going, we're coming with you.
Well, there's explosive. It's just explosive departures, and it is so. I just love listening to it. So and
so good.
The story behind it is even better, but because it's timeless, really. It is.
Well, did you know when you were recording it? Did you know that it was kind of magic? There was magic happening, or was it just kind of like, well, whatever, we're recording a demo, or did you feel that?
Yeah, like
it was intense, like in the studio. Bob Lanois did most of the recording. Dan helped out, but it was mainly Bob's baby, and Bob was like totally professional. We were green and cocky, and we thought we were going to have the world by the tail, and we believed in what we were doing, and in a way, like, I know this sounds weird because it was very raw music, but in a way it was fully developed when we went in. Everything was, it was deliberate what we did. It wasn't like just happened to turn out that way or something. It's what we wanted.
Yeah,
we wanted that sound.
That's evident. That's evident on Cyborgs Revisited, because the live material equally stands up to the studio work too, right? So
the live was magic, and I know when I was soloing, like because we did a long number, a 10-minute song, Legal Bodies, I just had that feeling that I had a hot hand that day, when you're on stage and everything is clicking. So for that show, that performance, I felt really good about that. But again, it wasn't recorded to be an album. That was done on a Tandberg tape recorder, and we had 2 microphones, and the one went into the Tandberg, and that picked up everything, but the vocals were very top heavy. When we listened back, we didn't think we could really use it for anything. But that's when Bob Lanois came back into the picture. Bruce Mowat was the guy who released the album, and he went to Bob and said, "Bob, we don't have enough material. We've just got the 6 studio songs, but we have this tape, reel-to-reel tape recorder." And we had the concert on the tape, and Bob, miraculously, God bless him, just recently passed away. What he did was amazing. He brought the music forward, and so he ended up really having a major hand in the entire album. And he helped Bruce to finance the record. He was great to work with.
Right.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So band breaks up. Record comes out 15 years after it's recorded. You guys are like a phenomenon, a phenom, or a phenomenon. That's what it is. Yeah, that's the word.
Yeah.
And you get like into North Road's book as like what, 36 or 37th best Canadian record ever made.
Yeah, that was Bob Merceau's book, the top 100 Canadian albums.
Yeah.
Which I've got in the room here somewhere. Yeah. So Bob called me up, and he said, "Edgar, I have to confess to you that when I started this project, I had never heard of your band." And he said, the story this is the most amazing story in the book was the response that I got because he sent out the questionnaire, and it was all like music business types, managers, agents, musicians, record labels. And he said, the support for your band was throughout the entire country and throughout all of those different categories. So he said, I was totally shocked when I seen how high Cyborgs Revisited placed in the book. So, of course, we were thrilled, because it was major kind of vindication, for what we had done.
Absolutely.
So, and we got to meet Bob, who's a great guy.
Yeah.
That year, the Hamilton Music Awards. So, yeah.
So it's like it truly is, and that's what a lot of people need to do is just if you're looking to discover some music, this is like a great discovery because it feels like you found it because you are still very much a cult band.
I just sent a copy of the double to Outback, Australia. A geologist was driving a Jeep on the Flinders Ranges, which is like I think it's being designated like a World Heritage Site. And he said to me, Edgar, I just found out about your record. Could you send it out here? So it was like $49 to send this. So he had to pay a fair amount of money for it,
Yeah.
But it was very cool hearing from him. And it was picked up by a California label called In the Red, which is it's one of the biggest garage labels in the world. And what he did was he expanded the record to include more of the Jackson Square concert. And so it's selling like throughout Europe now. And it's very cool.
That's so awesome. Now, I mean, so here we come to present day is that you created something way back in the 70s and, it stood the test of time.
Yeah.
And then you went to work on a solo record, but kind of shelved it, kind of walked away from working on it. And then in the interim, you put out 2 other solo albums, but now your first solo album is going to actually be your 3rd solo release.
That's more or less it. Yeah.
That's like the shell game. Or something.
More or less.
Yeah.
Where to go?
Yeah.
But,
Exactly.
It's pretty fresh. I mean, it sounds fresh. It doesn't sound like that. That was 1990, right? When you started.
1990, yeah. So
yeah.
It's a good 30 years.
Yeah, thanks for sending it along. It's on. We listened to it today and last night, and to me, there's a real I love the acoustic guitar playing. There's a lot of really nice guitar.
Thank you very much.
Interplay, and to me, when I listen to it, I think when Big Star had their moments like that. Or Chris
Great
Bell.
band.
Chris Bell has that sound of like that. The acoustics like in your face, and it's
love it.
Well played and sounds great. And
thank you.
For the large part, you've got those sort of explosive breaks that you had with Simply Saucer that pop into these acoustic songs every once in a while, and it's just like, wow, that was so cool to listen to. Congratulations on it.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I had great people working with me. The backup singer, Compton Roberts, was a big David Crosby fan, and I just handed that to him. I handed the file to him, and I knew he would take care of that. And so he sang beautifully on the record. Jeff Bakalar, the electric guitar player, came more from a jazz background, like I would say like an avant jazz background. And so he was a player that it was very arranged, his parts, and unique. And the bass player was Kevin Christoph from Simply Saucer. And the drummer, Paul Panchizek, had played with Crowbar. He was one of the Crowbar alumni, and I've played with him live, and he's played on my albums, and he's played with Simply Saucer. But I had retooled after the band broke up in 1979. I was really influenced by John Fahey and people like Mississippi John Hurt And I had listened to Reverend Gary Davis. And growing up, the Pentangle and Fairport Convention, people like Nick Drake. So it was a new musical adventure for me in 1979. I sold all my gear, and I bought a Laskin guitar from the Canadian guitar maker Grint Laskin. So it was a high-end acoustic guitar. And I kind of bunkered down, and I learned to play like an open tuning finger style on the guitar. And I had the same influences as a songwriter in many respects, but I was able to arrange my songs in a fairly like full way. And that's been my style, you know, like ever since.
Yeah, it's great. Everyone you mentioned, you can. It's a great melding of all those sounds. It's really fun to listen to. So
I should say the electric guitar breaks that you were talking about on the album. There were a couple of songs I just wanted myself to do the lead breaks. I hadn't played in about 10 years. So I didn't have an electric guitar. I had to borrow the guitar, and I borrowed a Telecaster, and then I worked out my parts, and then I laid them down in the studio. But the engineer, Kathy Robinson, was laughing. Like, she says, "You play acoustic so beautifully, but when you play electric, you just go crazy on the guitar." Right? So she said, "You're very extreme," she says. And that's because my style was frozen. You know, I had not like developed on the electric guitar, so I had the same way of playing as I did in the 70s, you know, which is kind of good in a way. You know, when I play with the band, it's not somebody that, you know, ended up playing in an Eagles cover band or something, you know what I mean? So
well, we're gonna throw to our sponsor here for a sec, Edgar. Don't go away. We'll come back. I want to talk about your band because there's a guy in there I think we kind of know a little bit, and we're going to talk more about this record and your other two that you did as a solo artist. So
all right,
sit tight. We're going
great.
to
Tight.
I'll
Be right back. Edgar. Okay.
Thank you.
We're going to throw to our sponsor here, Field Fox Gardens and Cookery. It's a food preparation and delivery service in Saskatoon. They are 100% gluten-free and organic and only use quality ingredients found close to home. Field Fox has just launched beef lasagna in 2 sizes. They are proud to partner with Saskatchewan beef producers in this carefully prepared classic meal that is delivered frozen for your convenience. In the coming days and weeks, the menu will grow to include more choices of frozen prepared meals to suit every lifestyle. Their products are soon to be featured at Sask Made Marketplace, which only sells the best local goods. So please visit fieldfox.ca to order your lasagna and sign up for the newsletter to be notified as the menu expands. So order that beef lasagna. It's organic and it's awesome. And we're back.
So
here we are.
One thing that I when I listen to the new record, I just think of there's like I'm listening to it and it's like there's a legitimate connection now between you and that actual sound. It's like it's today, but it was born out of an era like in the 70s, I think, that where your major influences came from, and then you recorded it in the 90s, and it's all along the way. There's a link to it just being such a legitimate sounding record. Do you feel that had this actually come out before your two Patches of Blue and your self-titled one, would that have changed? Do you think that would have changed the arc of your creative songwriting with harmonica and all that sort of stuff like that?
Yeah, the trajectory. I think it would have been different because that record was more of a unified sounding record. It was a band sound. It was a band that had played live. So we were very tight. And there was like you say, my influences have been strong throughout. And some of them, like say you take somebody like Lou Reed or John Cale, they have their soft side as well. Simply Saucer were doing very raw, loud rock, but the people I listened to also had the soft side. You had the Third Velvet's album, the Syd Barrett solo albums. And so there was that organic connection on Shadows of Ecstasy with those influences. They're pretty strong on that album. There's a bit of a Jonathan Richman feel to some of it as well. And so, yeah, I think my trajectory became more convoluted. There was a record between the two most recent ones called Canadian Primitive, which was a compilation record. So it was kind of more all over the map. So, yeah, I've righted the wrong, getting this thing out, and I'm very excited to have it out, and like more of a part of my history, and it'll be a part of my set as well when I play.
Right.
So
Did
yeah.
you? So was there a reason you it took 30 years? Was it? Did you?
Yeah.
Did you question? Did you doubt? Did you doubt it? Did you?
That's yeah.
Were you?
That's weird. Yeah, that's weird. You should say that, because just as I was recording this album, Cyborgs Revisited came out. So I think I was torn, because all these critics were talking about the kind of raw electric guitar sound I had.
Right.
And this was sort of something in a very, very opposite direction.
Yeah.
So I felt this kind of duality and kind of a cognitive dissonance about what I was doing or who I was. Was I the person that the critics were saying I was? And I think the question was like, why aren't you playing this music? You have this big following. You have international acclaim. Why aren't you playing that? So, and then I had the acoustic side, which is what I had built throughout the 80s. I had built a repertoire. I had put all this effort into it, and my own past now was conflicting me. And I think I found it very hard to deal with. And then I had, there was sort of a turmoil going on at home, because I had a young family, and my wife at the time was expecting her fourth child, and she was not of my musical world. She was not of that world. She did not understand it. She was afraid of it. And she became more and more stressed out with what I was doing. And, to the point it was affecting, her well-being, I thought. And I decided I couldn't continue, and I had to devote everything to taking care of this young family. And I walked away from it. And I didn't return for 10 years. I didn't call the studio. It became something I buried, right. And like a phobia. Uh-huh. I didn't want to think about it. I didn't see my friends, like my musical friends. So I was living a totally different life. Right. Homeschooling as well.
Oh my goodness.
Homeschooling. And until Paul Remans, who was a friend of mine and a really great songwriter, he bought a half share in Grand Avenue Studio, because Bob Deutsch and his wife Maureen were splitting up. And so Maureen sold her share to Paul. And Paul found my tapes buried somewhere in the basement shelves. And he called me up and he said, Edgar, I just found your tapes, and I put them up, and it's really cool stuff. And he said, do you want to come in? And so I said, yeah, I'll come in. Yeah. And so I listened to my record that I had made in 1990. And we ended up recording some new stuff. And some of those original songs went on Canadian Primitive. But the rest of it just got covered by the sands of time. And, then you get involved in other projects. But it was always something that in the back of my mind that I wanted released in their integrity as I did it. And about 4 months ago, Jim Diamond, who's a Detroit producer, he produced the first couple of White Stripes albums, and he's really got like an international reputation as this legendary guy that works magic in the studio. We had worked with him, like the band, Simply Saucer, on Baby Nova, a record we made in Detroit. And he said, Edgar, do you have anything that needs mastering? And I have a new record on the go, but it wasn't finished. So I thought maybe I get him to do the 11 songs from 1990, which is what I did. And he did an amazing job, the production and the mastering. And J.D. King did the cover artwork. And J.D. King was part of the nascent New York City punk scene in the early 70s. He chummed around with Joey Ramone, and he formed a band with Thurston Moore called J.D. King and the Coachmen, and that was pre-Sonic Youth. And then ended up becoming an illustrator for the New York Times and the New Yorker magazine, Absolute Vodka. You know, he was a very sought after, but you know, we were friends, and I asked him to do the cover art, and so he came up with that very unique cover for me.
Yeah, it looks great. It looks great. I think it's totally legit that you got this. All of a sudden, you got this record that you did years ago comes out, and all the critics are praising you, and everybody's loving this sound, and you're doing an acoustic record. You kind of might go, yeah, maybe now's not the right time for this. They might be totally expecting more, like you said, more heavy, guitar sound and stuff, and then you come out with that. It might have been crushing, soul crushing, just because they wouldn't have been ready for it. So now that's perfect. Now I'm enjoying it so much. So
well, Cyborgs Revisited took 15 years. This one took 30.
Yeah.
So now I need to wait 45
or 60, depending on how you look at it, right?
yeah, right.
Oh my. So
we shall see.
So you still keep playing. I mean, I was on the internet trolling around, and I see photos of you playing with bands at modern times, and even in 2018 you were in Saskatoon.
At the Jazz Festival.
Just blew my mind because I was like living here and I didn't.
I know.
Sometimes I just don't pay attention to anything, and I'm so stupid for it. But whatever. Sorry about that. But so you still have a current band, or have you been kind of laying low?
No, it's the same band, and it's myself and Kevin Christoph on the bass, who's the original bass player, Mike Treblecock from the Killjoys is on guitar and a theremin, and Kalina Phillips does the synth work, and she's a great singer as well. And right now we're using Brad Bridges as our drummer. We have Glenn Milcham has played with us, but currently it's Brad Bridges, who's a great young drummer from the Brantford area. So we've had toured the States, and we played the Goner Fest. We were a headlining act there in Memphis in 2018. We played a lot of the big American cities, New York, Detroit, Chicago, New Orleans, and Birmingham, Alabama. And we were ready to go down and tour again. A San Francisco promoter by the name of Tony Bedard, who was a fan of the band, had us booked in LA and San Francisco and Portland, Seattle, Phoenix, some Texas shows, Chicago, Detroit, pre-COVID. And then the COVID thing hit. We had it all booked just before the COVID.
Yeah, it totally sucks. That would have been so awesome to be down the West Coast with your tunes. Do you, is this going out as Simply Saucer, or is this?
Oh yeah, Simply Saucer. No, as Simply Saucer. Yeah.
Do you play any of your Edar Breau songs, or?
Sometimes, yeah. There's been a few times the songs that fit with our set. Yeah, we have done some.
So, like you said on that live on Cyborgs Revisited, the live stuff you said was magic. Now, when you go out and do you guys go out well rehearsed and know that this is it, or does that sort of jam element kind of happen? And or is there magic? Or are you a little more scripted now, or is it
No,
sort
I
of
think it's we're not changing the formula really.
okay?
Yeah. We just gotta. There's that improvisational part of the band. It's integral to our sound. So
Yeah.
no, we've kept that. Yeah.
So is it is it the same, kind of similar, or is it like any given night it would be like the Grateful Dead, where it was like I didn't hear that version.
Yeah, I
Never
know. I
heard
was
that.
wondering. Yeah,
Never
yeah,
heard
yeah.
that version.
Exactly.
That
Just
version,
go out
you
and
know?
do something completely new.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean the versions of the songs. They're. I've tried rewriting my songs, and it doesn't work.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't work. You think you're going to improve it,
Yeah.
but you were a certain person when you wrote that song long ago, and all those elements that went into it. You're safer staying where you're at with it. Right. So we play them. I mean, everybody has free reign. There's always been that feel like for anybody that comes into the band, I don't want to change them. I want them to give everything they can give to the project. So in that sense, I'm not trying to get somebody to sound like somebody else that was in the band. No.
Right.
No.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And Mike Chillicothe wouldn't let me get away with it anyways. Like Mike,
no, I don't think it would.
Mike's crazier than I am, when it comes to being rowdy on stage and crazy solos and stuff like that. I think if I tried to water it down, like he'd say, "No, I'll turn it up, crank it up."
Yeah,
so
for sure.
Yeah, they were a lot of fun. Him and Gene, and we did a bunch of dates with the Killjoys back in the day.
Cool.
So as things sort of open up, and you've got a record that is getting sort of out of the gates here, getting some attention, like Graham Rockingham's reviewing the spec today, right?
Yeah.
Are you going to? I imagine people are going to be calling you now to play Simply Saucer shows and your own stuff. Are you going to be able to do both, or are you going to pick one or the other? Or
I'm going to do them both. Because it's two sides of the coin. For Edar Breau, that's kind of where I'm at as a musician. So I want to push both those buttons for sure. Yeah.
And you're at a time in your life now where you're like all systems are go. And we're gonna do this. That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
awesome. That's one of the great things about music, right? It's keep it in your life; it'll always be there, right?
That's right. That's right.
Well, do you want to tell us about your other two solo records and like why? So, what's the deal here? Can we mostly buy this stuff from your website, or
you can get
limited on the streaming side of things? You don't got very much out there. It's mostly Bandcamp and
it's Bandcamp and CD Baby, and just getting the record stores, getting them into the record stores now. It's
for Shadows. Are you going to do vinyl?
Yeah, for Shadows.
Are you going to do vinyl?
I'd like to. Yeah. I want to do that too.
Yeah. That would be a really good sounding record on
vinyl.
I think it sounds great on Bandcamp. So Patches of Blue in 2012, you sort of thought you'd get back into music. Is that what you just sort of?
Patches of Blue, I did with Mike Berthelmer, who's a Hamilton producer. He has a studio called Pine Street Studio or Chatham Gardens, and I had some great people playing on that. Bill Dillon's on it. Bill's played with Bob Dylan, and he's got a whole long history with Dan Lanois in New Orleans. So Ed Roth is on it, and Ed he was like a producer at Grand Avenue and part of the Yorkville Sound very accomplished musician. And Mike Trevelcock is on that, and Kalina Phillips, who is a wonderful singer with a long, kind of illustrious career. She, with Brian, she sang with Brian Adams and David Clayton Thomas and Triumph, and
Wow.
a whole list.
She's a Hamiltonian, native Hamiltonian as well.
No, she's living right here in Dundas in this house.
Oh,
and so she was part of that, and Brian, the late Brian Griffiths, who was he was a great Hamilton guitar player that played with Willie Nelson and like that. So it was kind of really major kind of players on the record. Yeah, so I was very happy with that. And the other one, the Edar Breau album, that was done at Tape Studio. And that was more, I wanted to do something, it was more atmospheric kind of feel to the songs. Like it's very highly arranged. And
yeah, it's a good record.
Yeah.
We'll listen to them all. They're all, that all makes sense.
Yeah, good. You can see the thread, Johnny.
Yeah,
through my music.
There's nothing. There's no jump. There's no jump in the shark here. I mean, it all makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
And I think we're grateful that we could talk to you and get to meet you. And
yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, it's a real pleasure.
Learn more about you. And man, I hope you get some legs with this record, because you certainly deserve it. You've paid your dues.
Thank you.
Your story is just, the story of your music is just incredible, I think.
Yeah, no kidding.
And it's epic that you're still at it and still doing it. So,
well, thank you so much for having me on.
You have our love, and
thank you.
Go get them.
Yeah, no
thank
kidding.
you. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Leslie.
Yeah, for sure.
Thanks, man, and thanks for sending
all the best
tunes. Yeah,
you
bet.
Yeah. Thanks for everything. Thanks
we'll
for
see.
We'll
see you out there. We're gonna come out east sometime this summer. So
yeah, that's right.
Right on. Yeah, we'll
Hamilton.
Stop by in Dundas. Come on out.
We will.
We'll show you around.
Yeah.
Cool, man.
Awesome. Okay. Thanks so much, Edgar.
Wow. And man, if you guys have a chance to listen to his stuff, check it out.
Yeah.
Simply Saucer and Edar Breau. His new album and the Cyborgs Revisited is on Spotify. If you're on Bandcamp, check out Edar Breau on Bandcamp.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm really digging it. It was like, wow, this
so
is
good. Yeah.
So refreshing. So great to hear.
Yeah.
So,
there's a reason why it's a cult. He's got a cult following.
Oh,
people are starting to.
Yeah, I mean, Simply Saucer is one thing. This is a whole other thing here. And I got to admit, I was a little. I didn't know about his other two records until I heard his original first record. So it's good for me to hear them. Whatever, but
yeah.
The new one is killer. It's
good. No kidding. So thank you to Edar Breau for coming on the Green Room YXE, and we want to thank our sponsor, Field Fox Gardens and Cookery. Order that lasagna at fieldfox.ca, and please subscribe and follow No YXE on YouTube and Facebook. And I'm going to promote.
Do you have any messages here?
Maybe we should check to see. But I'm going to promote a few of the other No YXE shows.
Oh, here's David.
Oh, David.
Hello.
And I saw Louisa was on there earlier. I don't know if she's still on, but hi, Lou. Jared. Hey, Jared. So I'm going to just give a shout out to some of these other No YXE shows. YXE Sports Podcast is Mondays at 6 p.m. Let's Chat is Tuesday at 11 a.m. Sportsline, Thursday at noon, right? Thursday, so 12:15, I see there, 12:15 p.m. In Focus, YXE, Thursday at 7 p.m. And Slow TV, YXE, Sunday at 10 a.m. And if you're an artist and you have something coming up, be sure to email us at thegreenroomYXE@noyxe.com. So hope you guys have a great week, and we will see you next Wednesday at 7 p.m. Saskatoon time. Everybody Have a great week. Take care.
Good night.
Keep rocking along.